watching The Producer's Room, a streaming web series featuring the creators behind the hit songs of today's music industry. Songwriters, music producers, and artists discuss their creative process as well as examining current issues and technologies in today's rapidly changing music business. Your host is producer, songwriter, and educator Dave Tuff. Welcome to The Producer's Room.
Welcome to this episode of The Producer's Room. I'm your host, Dave Tuff. Really excited about our guest today, Tim Nichols, Grammy Award-winning songwriter. And you'll probably know his name most famously from the song by Tim McGraw, Live Like You Were Dying. His co-writer was Craig Wiseman on that. Tim will explain in the episode how that song went on to win about every #1 award in 2004. Tim also has written hits for artists such as Jody Messina, Reba McEntire, Ronnie Milsap, and the list goes on and on. Tim also gives back with his charitable efforts, which we'll talk about in this episode as well. So without further ado, I would like to welcome our guest, Tim Nichols.
Thanks for having me.
We appreciate it. And I should say Grammy Award winner Tim Nichols as well.
Let's say that. Yeah, let's say that.
That sounds better.
Say that, Grammy Award, yeah.
Well, let's get started. First of all, a little bit of your background. I want to get into the meat here, but you were born in Virginia, and then shortly after you moved to Springfield, Missouri. Is that right, with your family?
Yeah, it's kind of, I was born in Virginia, then when I was just a little kid, small boy, we moved to Missouri.
Yeah.
My dad helped my uncle start a business.
Right.
We were there for a few years, moved back to Virginia, and then between my sophomore and junior year of high school, we moved back to Springfield.
Oh, okay.
So I was just kind of bouncing. So I feel like I can kind of almost claim dual statehood, kind of Missouri or Virginia, just
back and forth,
wherever it favors me more, depending on who I'm talking
to. Exactly.
Today, Springfield.
And we were just talking that we both went to the same high school that Brad Pitt went to. I don't know. That's a small little factoid.
Yeah.
Okay, so then you end up in Nashville. How? Was that through your artist deal?
I graduated from high school. Didn't really know what I wanted to do. I went to college to Southwest Missouri State, except now it's not Southwest Missouri State anymore.
MSU,
it's
Missouri State University, I think.
Is that?
They
think that's right.
SMSU, it was SMS, and then MSU.
Or is it Missouri State University?
Yes,
you know?
MSU.
Yeah.
Anyway, they've changed their name about 5 times, but
so I was thinking I would major in broadcasting.
Okay.
And so it was the first day of the semester. The class was Introduction to Broadcasting, 8 a.m. on a Monday morning. Just a handful of people in the class, and the professor walks in and says, "I'm sorry, the class has been canceled due to lack of interest." So I finished that semester, went one more, and just got tired of not having any money. I was paying my own way through school. It's not like my parents. I come from basically a blue-collar family, so it's not like my parents were saying, "You are finishing college, young man."
Right.
So I went, a couple more semesters, got tired of not having any money, and started working at a factory there, Lily Tulip. Do you remember?
Yes. And don't
Sweetheart
they have the cup, the big cup?
Yes.
On the
so they made paper products, and so I worked third shift there for a little while and got laid off.
Oh man.
So it was like,
you definitely have some experience to write some songs about.
Right. So when I'm actually now, when I'm talking to new writers or artists or whatever, I talk about how you can get where you're supposed to be by doors closing, just as well as doors opening.
That's true.
The college door, well, that kind of didn't work out. Then the factory, third shift factory job didn't work out. So I started taking guitar lessons and working like a part-time temporary job service, and this guitar teacher told me about a record company here in Nashville that he'd heard about, that they were looking for artists.
Okay.
Well, this guy we got in touch with a guy, and he turned out to be a con artist.
Oh, okay.
And a rip-off, Nashville rip-off guy. Yeah. And so, long story short, I ended up on 60 Minutes.
Oh, wow.
And from there, it was with Mike Wallace, and from there we met some people. The pivotal guy back in the day, his name was Cy Simon. he happened to be from Springfield, and he was a publisher.
And his son is still active.
His son manages Tim McGraw.
Yeah,
now.
still active in Nashville.
Yeah, Scott Simon. We had dinner just a couple weeks ago. So his father sighed.
Yeah. After
60 Minutes aired, he basically took me under his wing, and he would listen to my bad songs.
Yeah.
And at one point, he told me, if you want to hunt tigers, you have to go where the tigers are, which made perfect sense to me. It was his way of saying, you can't do this from Springfield, Missouri. You need to go to Nashville. So I was 20. I moved here when I was 21.
Wow, wow.
Had a couple of guys in a band. And
so you're in Nashville, and then I read that Turner Nichols started in '93. Is that right?
Yeah,
somewhere around there.
Early '90s, right about the time what happened. And Brooks and Dunn hit.
Yeah.
And so they were on Arista. Well, you know the way the town works a lot.
Yeah.
If a duo works for one label, well then all the other labels want to find a similar duo.
But I remember a lot of you guys' songs. Moonlight Driving is one that I remember growing up hearing. And how many albums did you guys do?
We finished, one was released, and we had another finished and in the can when we lost our record deal. We had I'd like to joke around. We had a record deal for about 15 minutes. But it's all, it's kind of worked out.
Well, but I think that gives unique perspective. So let's actually move into your creative process, and that's kind of what this show is about, is your creative process as a songwriter. And that experience is unique, I think, because you were an artist before you were, you were an artist before you were a #1 hit songwriter, right?
Well, that's we had this deal, Zach and I had this deal, but we were writing songs before then.
Okay.
And so I had, my first hit was a song that Keith Whitley recorded called I'm Over You. And so we had a few things. Zach and I had been writing together, and from our writing, we had this little band we put together, and we were playing clubs around town. And we were playing a little club called Lucy's and Tilly's in Hermitage, Tennessee.
Yeah.
So we were playing there, and we ended up, like I said, we'd already had some songs, some cuts, and, and a couple of hits. We were playing there on the weekends and whatnot, and we ended up getting a record deal. And so when we signed our deal, we left there, and the guy that came in behind us was Trace Adkins.
Oh, wow.
So he started playing there, and then he got got his deal.
He's taller than me. No, he's a big guy.
Yeah. So that was it gave us something to talk about as we'd go out
you had that
meeting radio
calling card and
radio stations.
But even, I guess, when we're speaking of the creative process, do you, and this is one technique I was going to ask you about, is visualization. I've heard a lot of writers will imagine the artist singing the song in front of thousands of people on the stage, or maybe seeing the movie in their head. Do you ever use any of those types of techniques from when you were an artist, just thinking like, how is this song going to communicate from this person on stage to all these thousands of people out there?
I think about that a lot. And I'm really big on the whole visualization thing. When I first was moving to town, the music business it's tough.
Right.
It's tough and it's competitive. And so I would listen to a lot of just motivational books on tape, and I feel like that really helped me. And I could see, like you said, I would visualize. I could see my songs winning awards and being on the radio and going to #1. And I remember several years ago, before my dad passed away, he said, "Did you ever think that you would get to this place?"
Wow.
And I said,
"That's beautiful."
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think seeing it and thinking I would is part of what made it happen.
Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful. And just having that goal in your mind, and that's the seed. You plant the seed, it grows the tree. And well, lyrically, because you had mentioned you're visualizing, obviously some really unique lines in your songs. The bull named Fu Manchu is the one that just came to mind from Live Like You Were Dying. But when you're putting furniture, specific details in songs, how much is too much, and how much is enough to convey a universal message?
I feel like
to
that's
describe
just
the
something
song,
that you
feel out.
You just learn, but I feel like you have to write a certain number of songs, and you start just basically figuring it out.
Sure.
About what's the balance of, like you said, furniture and pictures versus more concept, emotional.
I just
I think
takes doing it.
It just comes from doing.
Right. So another question about craft, and like I said, we just want to dive into the creative process, is do you complete some of your #1 hits and your top 10 hits, do you complete those in a day, or has there been times when you've gotten the whole song to come at one time, or is it mainly a process that's spaced out?
I feel like that also, it can be, I mean, I've written songs that have been hits and done well that come in one sitting, and then by the same token, songs that have also done well and big hits that it might take 2 or 3 times to get together. So it just, there's no set time to where I feel like I tend to write slower than faster, and I really want to kind of dig in and make sure each line is as good as it can be, and is this exactly right. And I'm always, even though we might have a line that we feel like is, yes, this is definitely it, if there's still something an option that pops into my head, I have to throw it out and get it out into the room, because you never know when somebody's going to throw another line out that beats as good as what the line you think that you have. Sometimes something appears that's like, oh, this made this way better. Right. So I always keep digging.
And going to that, when you're in a co-write situation and you're working with a co-writer, it is a back and forth exchange. Do you find that, once again, as a lyricist, there's enough reflective time, or is that why you like to go and kind of sit with the song and maybe come back? Because I know it happens so fast in a co-write situation, because you guys are throwing ideas back and forth, and I don't know if you keep a notebook of your ideas or how an actual co-write situation works, but with you. But do you have enough time to kind of mull over it in a co-write situation? Or?
Yeah, I never feel like that I'm in a co-write situation to where the song is to where I feel like the song is moving along faster than I would want it to.
Okay.
I mean, because one thing, all the different people that I write with, we're pretty sensitive to. It's like, let's don't. If we want to, if we just want to get a song finished, we can finish a song in 30 minutes or an hour.
Sure.
But the last thing we need is just another good song.
And that led me directly to another question: is, how do you know? Can you tell when a song is from inspiration versus just trying to go through it and just knock it out? I mean,
I don't really try. Like I said, the last thing I need is another song, and to spend money demoing another song that's just good.
Yeah.
So we're always striving, trying to hit great.
Sure.
I mean, that's where the bar is. Now, we certainly don't always get there, but we're always
you've gotten
trying
there a few
to make.
times.
Well, we've been really fortunate.
Yes.
But we're always trying to make it great.
Once again, another creativity question is, I've been researching this guy named Charles Lim. I don't know if you've checked his stuff out on YouTube, but he studies jazz musicians in an MRI scanner. And what he has found is that with the really top-notch jazz musicians, they don't edit themselves. They let ideas free flow through their brains. Same with some of these hip-hop guys that are, freestyling. And my question related to that is, how do you know when to put on your editor hat and start tweaking in a co-write or by yourself and inhibit creativity, and how do you know when to let the creativity flow and just get ideas down?
I feel like by their nature, jazz and hip hop, I feel like those are more spontaneous, free form,
right?
Thinking, but for country radio, when you're writing songs for country radio, which day in and day out, I'm trying to get songs recorded by country artists.
Yes.
I just feel like that it's a bit of a different art form.
And that's what I'm curious about. And do you have to stay ahead of what's next? I mean, if you're trying to keep up with what's on the radio now, that's 6 or 8 months behind when that song was written, right? So as a writer, do you actually have to think of what's the next fresh new thing?
See, I think that's the part. No, I don't think that, because I think that's the. You can edit yourself right out of a. I mean, you can stare at each other all day long, thinking, well, no, that's too ahead of the curve, or no, that's too behind the curve. We can't say that. It's just when we're in the room, I mean, a co-write, we just want to write the best song that we can, the best song that's floating in the room that day.
Okay, so let me take a step back, because you were talking about country radio. So I should then ask you, and then this is so ambiguous, I know, but what makes a good, quote unquote, or a good country song? I mean, how is country different than other genres? Let's maybe go there. Country radio versus pop radio versus hip hop or something like that.
I mean, I think the broad strokes answer is that a country song, or a great country song, I feel like tells a story.
That's good.
And I think it's more narrative driven. And there's a beginning and there's a middle and an end. A lot of the stuff lately, the past couple of years with the bro country and all that, not as much. That's more all in the moment, so to speak. But I feel like even now, for example, I have a song that's on the chart now, Jana Kramer on Warner Brothers. The song's called "I Got the Boy," and it tells the story of the singer. She sees her old boyfriend's picture in the paper where that he has gotten married, and she sees how he's changed. He's he's dressed. He's all in his black tux, and he's got a haircut from a ball cap.
Wow.
And so it's that narrative. There's more narrative, more story.
Right.
And I think, to me, that's a big part of what differentiates a country song.
I like that. And then the 3 chords and the truth, right? Where they have
there's always that.
Hey guys, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. Welcome back. Once again, we're joined with Grammy Award winning. I just want to keep saying that. But also, as I mentioned in the intro, you guys won Best Country Song in 2004. Was that or Song of the Year Award from Academy of Country Music, right? For Live Like You Were Dying. So was it both of those, the Grammy and Song of the Year?
It won the
CMA,
ACM.
Wow.
NSAI, BMI, ASCAP.
All the acronyms, right?
Grammy.
Wow.
It won. and I didn't know, I had heard this. It won every song award that is presented for country music.
Wow.
And we were nominated for at the Grammys. We won Best Country Song, and it was nominated for Best Song overall. And John Mayer won that year with Daughters, which is a great song.
Yeah, yeah. Well, speaking of that song, and then I'm sure you've spoken about that a lot, and so people can find that information on YouTube and online. But I did want to ask you a question that someone wanted me to ask you about that, as far as you could have literally stopped on your laurels there and just said, I'll make it a full-time living, you know, let's do greeting cards, let's do books, and just called it a day on Live Like You Were Dying, but you chose to keep plowing forward. So what inside of you, just the nature of you as a creator, do you just have to keep writing? I mean,
I love writing songs.
Yeah.
I mean, I love to write songs. There's nothing that I like more. So I don't see myself ever retiring. I mean, I might slow down a little and travel more, but I have too much fun. I mean, this gig is too good to like quit.
So we were recently talking about that you're working with a lot of new artists still, and you were just saying that you still love writing, and you really caught my ear when you said that you were working with Burt Bacharach. And how did that come about?
It's unbelievable. I mean, literally just the thrill of a lifetime for me. I mean, especially, like I said, I think of myself really as a lyricist first, and to be writing with, I mean, I feel like Burt is one of the greats, probably I mean, the greatest American living popular songwriter.
Agreed.
I mean, obviously there's Sondheim and those guys, but in terms of popular music, American music recorded, I mean, he's the guy.
I agree.
And so to hear, you know, a lyric, one of my lyrics, with his, you know, being sung over his Burt Bacharach melody is just.
So when do we get to hear this? Is what I want to hear.
Man,
you're still working on it.
There was nothing I would love. I would so love. It would be such a thrill to. We've written 3 songs together so far, and to have one of those get recorded someplace, whether it be here in Nashville or out there in LA or a movie for a movie theme or whatever. But it's amazing. And Burt, you know, he still will do the demos here, and he'll send a lead sheet, and to see my name beside his name on that lyric sheet is pretty cool.
Wow. So and speaking of creative process, you were telling me that you had sent him. I was asking you earlier when we were off camera, I was asking you if you'd ever written a lyric and then had music put to it, and you were saying that did happen with Burt.
With him, the second song that we wrote, I had a lyric.
Okay.
And so obviously through the years, all the great songs that Burt wrote with Hal David, they would work that way a lot. And so, like I said, basically I sent him this lyric, and the title of the song was called Doors Closing. And it was about, like, you know, like we spoke of a few minutes ago, about the whole getting to where you're supposed to be through doors closing.
Sure.
And so I just sent him just basically a memo on my phone and emailed it to him just to where he could hear the cadence that I had in my head, and then he came up with the melody.
Wow! Just to pick up the phone and know you're talking to Burt Bacharach.
It's just
pretty amazing.
It's crazy when he, you know what? I'll look at my phone and it says Burt Bacharach calling. Like,
wow! So I'm excited, and hopefully we get to hear some of that come out soon, and maybe a movie like you said, or something else that we can hear that output. This is called the Producer's Room, this show, so I was going to ask you a little bit about demoing and maybe how that's changed through the years that you've been in Nashville. I know actually you used to cut some demos here at House of David, is that right?
Yes, years ago when I was first getting started. My first publishing deal I wrote for Ronnie Milsap, had an independent publishing company. Mike Reed was there at the time.
Wow.
And I was writing with a dear friend of mine, Gilles Godard, who's still, now he runs, he's involved with a publishing company based out of Toronto. It's called Olay.
Yes.
And they're, I mean, they're doing great. They have offices here in town and in Toronto and Los Angeles. And so Gilles we would write songs together, and Gilles was from Canada, and so he had a independent record label, and then he was also a producer. And so he would produce records on like Ronnie Prophet and Tommy Hunter and these big time Canadian country music artists. So we would write songs, and he would come in here and do the demos, and then also the records here. And so it's been a little while, but it's good to be back here.
So let's get into that a little bit, because I don't want to take too much time in talking about the past. I want to talk about now. And so, speaking of demos, you do own your own publishing company here on Music Row,
right?
And that's called This Music.
This Music.
Is that correct?
I have two partners, Rusty Gaston and Connie Harrington.
Okay. And so, when you're working with some of these new artists that you sign as writers, does the demo now need to be the master? I mean, this is more of a production-related question, but back in the day, where a guitar vocal would be sufficient, now do you have to provide a full production, or?
I think it still depends.
Okay.
A lot of times it's who the artist or the producer that you might be pitching it to. A lot of it depends on time frame. Like I know, for example, Ben Hayslip and Jimmy Yeary, who they write for our company, and I think Dean Dillon. Or this particular song, I think it might have been. It doesn't matter who. I can't remember now exactly who. But basically, Kenny Chesney cut the song from their work tape. We didn't have time. They didn't have time to get in before Kenny was going into the studio. They sent him the work tape. He recorded it straight off from that. We have an artist. His name is Drew Baldridge that we've been working with over the past couple of years, pitching him, getting him ready, and he just signed a record deal with Cold River Records, and so he's out as we speak, doing radio. And so the demos that we did on Drew, Josh Leo's producing, we took more time with those, and they were.
And they turned into
they were
master,
definitely way closer
to
masters, and now we'll go back and may sweeten a few things and upgrade the session from demo to master, but the basic tracks are there.
So now that you're involved with the publishing company, it's a whole nother hat that you're wearing. And I know you've been doing that. I say now, but in the last, 10, 15 years?
Yeah, we're ending our 9th year.
So how do you know how to cast a particular song for an artist? I guess that's my next, more of a business-related question, but it also ties into songwriting. First of all, when you write a song, are you thinking of a particular artist more than not, or are you just writing a good song? And number two, once the song is done, how do you know it's a right fit for that artist?
That's there are times let's just write the best song we can, thinking, okay, if we write a great song, somebody's going to want to record it. There are other times you'll have a song going, and you get a sense of the artist that it would fit. For example, a few years ago, Tia Sillers, Mark Sanders, and myself were working on a song I had this idea called "That'd Be All Right," and as we were working on it, it seemed like an Alan Jackson type of song. So we finished it and we sent it to Keith Steele, who was Alan's producer, and Keith liked it and he played it for Alan, and Alan liked it and he recorded it, and it turned out to be a hit. We have done that also. Mark and I have also, a few years ago, same thing with Reba. It's kind of like assignment writing when you've got your target and you're trying to hit it. while it's fun and I like to do that on occasion, it's a bit of a two-edged sword, because what happens is if you write a song, if you're trying to write a George Strait song and you're thinking about George's phrasing and the range, subject matter, if you write it for him, tailored, tailor every piece to George, and then if George doesn't cut it, then everybody else you play it for, they say, "Oh man, it sounds like a George Strait song." So nobody's, the chances are nobody's ever going to cut it.
Yeah.
So it can be, like I said, a bit of a two-edged sword.
Okay, guys, we're going to go to another break. Stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
What would a degree from Belmont University mean to you?
I'm so proud of you, darling.
Maybe it's time you found out.
Thanks, Dad. I can't believe I finally did it.
Belmont University Adult Degree Program. Finish what you started.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Producer's Room. I'm Dave Tuff, and once again we have our guest Tim Nichols. Once again, thanks for being here, Tim.
Thanks for having me.
And so the reason I'm warming all up to you here is because we have this section called Rapid Fire. Okay, this one's not that hard, but what was your least favorite school subject?
Math.
Okay, easy. That's all we need is one answer. Is there anything you wish that would come back into fashion? That's not in fashion now, obviously.
Oh, well. Pass.
Okay, pass. That's a good one. Do you own any inflatable furniture?
No.
Okay, well that's a good start. Do you own any furniture with water in it?
No, the waterbed's been long gone.
Okay. We're getting a little deeper here. What are you afraid of?
Falling.
Okay, that's good. And last but not least, if you were told that there were 5 minutes left to your life, or it was the end of the world, what would be the last song you would want to hear? And you can think for a minute.
I wonder if it would. There was this one song called "Live Like You Were Dying."
But you really would be dying, so I don't know. Well, great job. All right, so a few other more serious questions, and then we'll wrap it up. And once again, thanks so much for being here. One piece of business advice you were given that you would like to pass on, and this could be also more of a creative piece of advice, but just in general, being here in Nashville, that maybe someone that had mentored you had given you, and you would like to pass on to future generations?
I think if you want to be a writer, you have to write. You have to write songs, and there are days when it's like, man, this songwriting is hard.
Yeah.
And then there are those days where there's nothing to this songwriting, but you have to love this business, because it's too hard if you don't. If you're thinking about getting into the music business because you think, oh, I can make a lot of money, I can get rich, forget it.
Yeah.
Because it's too hard and it takes too long to get to the money. So every day, over all the years that you're struggling, if you love it, you can view it as part of the journey. And I think that's the other thing about, if you want to be a singer, if you want to be a writer, if you want to be an actor, that's more like a path. If you want to be a doctor or a lawyer, that's like a 4-lane highway, and it's lit, and there are signs, and you know exactly where you are every mile of the way.
Get those degrees and you'll be right there.
But if you want to be a songwriter or a singer, you just have to, it's like you see that opening in the woods there, you just have to take off. And you never know how close you are to arriving at your destination. You don't really know if you're going the right way. Sometimes you might have to double back.
Right.
But I feel like all of that motion on your journey is valuable.
Yeah. That's great. And then the door's closing, and then we'll listen to that song, and it'll all make sense after that.
Absolutely.
Okay, so one more question, because we were reading in your bio once again that you had served on the board of directors for NSAI. For those of you guys, viewers that are not familiar, outside of Nashville, that's the Nashville Songwriter Association International. You've served on the board at the Country Music Association. But what really got me is that you had been involved 20 years with the High Hopes Pediatric Clinic. And my last question is, how important, when you're now successful, is giving back, and how do you view that as part of your life?
It's incredibly important to me, because I feel like I've been so blessed, so just ridiculously blessed, to be able to make a living doing something that I love, and I feel like I'm compelled. I just feel like it's what I'm supposed to do. Find a way to give back for all that I've been given.
Yes.
So that preschool for special needs kids is my way, and that school just has my heart. I go out there. It's little miracles are happening there every single day, and it's just a wonderful thing that I've been a part of. And I feel like I say I'm giving back, but I still, in my giving, I still get, again, I'm getting back still, again, much more than I'm giving.
Yes. Well, that's a great way to end it. And you can find Tim online at pretty much any other social media platform that you think of. Okay, guys, we'll see you next time on The Producer's Room.